Triangle shirtwaist fire, which killed 146 people and injured many more. Standard Oil gets broken up into a bunch of smaller companies after the Supreme Court ruled that it was an unreasonable monopoly. And Ray Heron wins the first Indianapolis 500 in today's featured car, the Marmon Wasp. But before getting into this one, I'm your host, Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel where I write my own scripts and make these documentaries without the intervention of AI. I try and post between 3 and 5 episodes a week, engine episodes and company history sprinkled in, which are the long form videos. We just dropped the Studebaker Company history earlier today. If you're into automotive history, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. Marmon started in 1851 as a flour mill grinding manufacturing company that would branch out into other types of machinery. In 1890, Howard C. Marmon graduated from Berkeley with a degree in mechanical engineering and joined the family business Nordyke and Marmon. At the age of 23, Howard Marmon, with that Berkeley degree in his back pocket, would be named chief engineer of the firm. Around 1902, Howard Marmon would build 2 strictly experimental vehicles powered by an overhead air-cooled V-twin. The cylinders were set at 90 degrees. That was the first model. The second model came 1 year later. The 2-cylinder would be replaced with an air-cooled V4. Howard would go on to build an experimental V6 as well as an experimental V8 that would also be air-cooled. That little tidbit of information is super vital because I'm always finding new V8 engines. I never knew that Marmon built a V8 in 1905, or around 1905, I should say. That was air-cooled. It never made it to production, unfortunately, but Marmon could be considered one of the first companies to produce a V8 in this country. Marmon would officially enter the automotive space in 1904. Also in 1904, Marmon produced more mill grinding equipment than any other company in that space in the world. 1904 saw the release of the Marmon Model A, which was a 4-cylinder, a V4 that was air-cooled, making 20 horsepower. Water-cooled models would show up in 1908. Marmon had a reputation for speedy, upscale, reliable cars. Marmon would build cars from 1902 through 1933, most famous for the Wasp, which we'll come back to, and the V16. There was only 3 companies in this country, United States, that built a V16. Peerless, which had intentions of bringing their V16 to market but went bankrupt instead. Cadillac offered 2 very different V16s during the V16 production cycle. They also offered a prototype afterwards. Anyway, the overhead valve unit was used 1930 through 1936. 1937 through 40 would get an alien-looking engine. It was a 180-degree flat V12. Marmon V16 was its Halo Hail Mary. Unfortunately, Cadillac beat Marmon to market despite being introduced at the New York Auto Show in November of 1930. Deliveries didn't begin until April of the following year. For 1933, Marmon only offered one product, the V16, and then the company was moved into receivership in May of that year. Howard Marmon would build an all-new car to replace the Marmon V16, which he did with his own money. The Marmon V12. It was to have independent front suspension, which it would take the other companies years to get that. Remember, Packard doesn't get independent front suspension on the senior cars until 1937. Tubular backbone frame, de Leon rear end. But his company was gone, and the economic shitstorm of the century called the Great Depression was still very much a real thing. Howard Marmon had a brother named Walter Marmon, and he became aligned with Arthur W. Harrington, which was in the business of making four-wheel drive trucks. That company would become Marmon Harrington. 1911 Marmon model lineup was offered as one model, the Model 32, which was offered from 1909 through 1914. It could be had in body styles that include, but not limited to, touring car, suburban, roadster, limousine, and landaulet. In 1911, Marmon would build a purpose-built race car called the Wasp. It was a single-seater and was driven by Raymond Herron. There was a bit conflicting information around whether Marmon built the Wasp for Ray Herron or if Ray Herron wanted Marmon to build him the Wasp. But either way, Ray Herron would complete the 500 Indianapolis race in 6 hours 42 minutes, averaging 74.6 miles per hour for 500 miles, all on his own without a mechanic to intervene. Most races during this era was done with two people, a driver and a mechanic. It was a two-person job to run a race back in the day. The mechanic did everything the driver didn't do, and the driver did everything in his power to drive the car as fast as he could. And the mechanic played lookout as well as took care of any distractions, like if you took a corner too fast and the engine began to starve for oil, the mechanic would reach over and start pumping with his hand. It was also the mechanic's job to look around and see of all the other racers' positions and if people were about to pass. The Marmon Wasp was a single-seater. To cut down on weight, a rear-view mirror was added so that the driver, Ray, could see behind him, and he didn't need a mechanic to tell him, hey, there's a car about to pass you on the left, making the Marmon Wasp from 1911 the very first car to feature a rear view mirror. Let's talk specs. It rides a wheelbase of 120 inches. It weighs around 2,300 pounds. Price, $2,750, which would be equivalent to you spending $93,782.53 in the year 2025. That number is for their production cars. This car was a one-off. There isn't one like it. We'll get back to that in a minute. 1911 Marmon production, but before that, total Marmon production for the whole run, 1902 through 1933, is alleged to be about 110,000 units. Total 1911 production was 534 units. Moving on to engine, only one engine on offer for this car. This is the only engine of its kind in existence, to my knowledge. 477 cubic inch displacement, T-head inline 6, 7.8 liters. It was good for 110 horsepower, which was an insane number for 1911 at 2,500 RPM, estimated 250 pound-feet at around 1,800 RPM, with a bore of 4.5 inches and a stroke of 5 inches. As previously mentioned, this engine was a one-off, but it's based off of the four-cylinder Marmon engine from 1910 with 2 cylinders added. I found this car at RM Auction during the Hershey AACA, which is always the first full weekend in October. This car is a replica, but with that said, it looks very similar to the original one. I didn't want to miss the opportunity to cover this story. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. Only one scenario today, all veteran, horseless carriage race cars. But which one would you rather have? 1909 Walter Christie, or 1911 Marmon Wasp, or 1917 Miller race car? I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of it. So I tried a different shooting style for this one, made it a little bit shorter. What do you guys think? Do you guys like it? Not like it? Do you guys like more information? Or do you prefer going over all of the lines and details like you can't see from far away? I'm interested in hearing I'm interested in hearing feedback. Thanks again for everything that you guys bring in the comment section. Until next time, toodaloo! Welcome to the after show. This part of the video doesn't have any sound or commentary, but it gives you the opportunity to see this car in its entirety, all of the lines and details. and parts that you can't see from far away. Enjoy.